My life at the time was of any ordinary kid. I was happy and school was fun because of recess. All the impressions of happiness were there for me. I loved waking up in the morning and thinking about going to school. The 6th grade started off at a good pace, and I was actually happy to go to school. It was cold and rainy on the morning of November 13th, 2009. Let me tell you that it was Friday the 13th. About 3 hours into class, suddenly my name was called to the counselor's office, from the intercom. From there on out, my stomach had begun churning. My mom was sitting in the counselor's office, with her face in her hands, sobbing, and she finally had the breath to tell me that Grandpa had collapsed. On the ride home, I had this gaze of hate that stared back at me in the window. I asked God in that instance, why would you let anything happen to this wonderful man, grandfather, great-grandfather, most of all a loving man? Once we were packed, my mom, my sister, and I boarded the plane to head out to Michigan. It was a dreadful plane ride. We later arrived at the Cherry Capital Airport in Traverse City, Michigan. At the Petoskey Hospital, there were only 2 people allowed in the intensive care unit, or the ICU, rooms at a time. My grandpa had multiple tubes coming out from his throat, and all sorts of needles in his arm. He looked as if he hadn't slept in weeks. He seemed simply lifeless. It's as if nobody had faith in him. They didn't think he could pull through. I had every hope stretched into the faith that hopefully he would wake up and remember his family. Later that night, I went to my grandma's house where I could hopefully get away from the rest of my chaotic day and to hopefully get a good night's sleep. I opened my eyes the next morning and I felt groggy, forgetful of what happened the night before. Then in an instant I remembered and started sobbing. I cautiously walked to his room down this narrow hallway. He looked toward me as I walked in the room, and he was puzzled looking. "Look, Keith, it's SharnjeetD. It's one of your granddaughters. Look," my grandma nervously said. He looked at me and I read his lips. They read SharnjeetD. This is when I knew there is nothing stronger than a family bond. It is thick in the blood. I learned never to lose hope on anyone or myself. You can choose your friends, but never your family. That day became a life event in which I will never forget. Thanks for watching.